Quentin comes back and gets his binder, and we start working with him. And so just like, how did you begin your lesson at the guided reading table?
I mean, that wasn't a typical day because I was going to see that group later. But I mean, normally how it happens, I like bring them over and we go over like the words that are tricky and stuff. But that day they were just working their binder, and I was helping them.
Okay. And so, like, even when we have binder work, if they're at the guided reading table, we should always still be working on specific strategies. So you should have a lesson, like, if they're working on any, like, being able to read new word strategies, or if they're working on comprehension lessons, it should still be a lesson, and it should still be an assignment. So, like, even if you were to, like, go through, like, the story elements book or what, and then you picked a skill for them, there should still be some kind of I do for them in the lesson. And so just like, what are scholars supposed to be doing? Because it's fine for you to do like comprehension for 2 days in guided reading, but we have to ensure that there is a lesson and that we're following our schedules every day. And so just like, what are scholars doing while they're in guided reading on that particular day?
What were they doing that day? It was one of those days where a group was taken out for something else. So my group that I was sitting with was taken out of the classroom, so I didn't have a group at that time. So I just pulled Veron and Quantum because they're having difficulty with their independent work.
And so even when you have that, like, if we have to move groups, like, we have to be prepared.
Yeah.
And like, know that, so I know that these kids are going to leave at this time, so let me adjust my guided reading groups, because number one, kids should be getting guided reading every day. So like, we should have a plan in place for when they come back, or we should have did them first. And two, so even then, like, if you were going to pull Quentin and Veron at that time, it still should have been structured for them. So what's the implication on scholars learning when we are not setting expectations, and also, and I just want to add to that, not setting expectations, but not keeping a consistent schedule for them, and not making sure that we're doing the same things every day, especially for this group of kids.
It kind of makes it a little bit trickier for them to grow, because they don't really do well when it's a little chaotic in here and their schedules are thrown off. They prefer to have consistency.
Yes, and it also, just like to name that, it increases your behaviors in here. When we're not consistent with this group of kids every day, and like, if there is a change, like, we don't have a conversation with kids and preview that change for them, that actually increases their behaviors, because now they're guessing what happens next and what am I supposed to do next, and we don't want to have any of the guessing for them. So today, actually, what we're going to do is we are going to, like, I'm just going to work with you. I know, like, you've been working with Keener. So if you want to just grab one of your guided reading books for next week.
You want the lesson plan too?
No. So, like, and you really just need the name of any book. It's just not, it doesn't have to be. So actually today we're going to script expectations, not necessarily talk about the book.
Okay.
So what I want you to do is, so like, every time that we have a rotation, so like every time that you have a rotation with kids and you have a new group of kids, or even every time Allison has a new group of kids, we always want to restate expectations for these kids. The more reminders, the better. So what we want to do today is, I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to script out expectations. Like, you want to make sure that you have materials planned and prepped for the group. So when you script out your expectations, like, you should have your expectations, you should have their book, you should have already pre-read the book and like know the words, just like, so you know what you're going to do, and then just like state the expectations. So today we're just going to talk about just scripting expectations for when you want to set your guided reading. So what do you want the boys to do, or Kayla, or Jakayla and Zariah to do when they sit down at this table. And so, like, I would give them just like I would stick to 3 expectations for them. I would not do a lot. And so, if you want to open, you can write it on the back of your sheet, or if you can write it wherever you want, right there.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to actually script out your expectations for guided reading, I'll give you like 5 minutes.
Okay. Just kind of
So,
like almost
what
like
to do directions. What do you want them to do? So like when they sit down, what do you want them to do? While they're reading, what do you want them to do? So if I were to do, like, to give you an example of what I would do, if I, like, after the rotations, like before the kids even sat down, I would say when you get to the guided reading table, you need to sit down and start. Or maybe you have a do now for them, so that because rotation to the rotation of them, like moving, sometimes you have to get to other groups first, or they're like not the last group you move. So maybe you have a do now for them. So, but like, what's the expectation? So do you want them to sit and start until you join them? What does their behavior look like? How are they reading? Like, so are they whisper reading? I would have an expectation about, we're always trying our hardest to sound out new words. So what exactly do you want them to do when they come?
just a few.
Okay. So are you ready? So like, why don't you read them to me first, so we can just, and then we can practice. You just stating them.
Okay. So when you come to the table, sit and star and wait for me to join. When reading, use a whisper voice so other scholars can read without being distracted. And when reading, remember to use your eagle eye to help figure out tricky words or whatever strategy I'm teaching that day.
So you can actually, I hope this doesn't die. You can actually, like, you are going to practice like I'm one of the scholars, and just like I want to make sure that you just like remember the things that we've talked about. So although you're not standing, like you're sitting in a guided reading chair, we want to make sure that we use a strong voice, and that we just have a formal posture while we're giving directions. So
Okay. Alright. So remember, reading, you always use a whisper voice so other scholars don't get distracted. And while you're reading, make sure you use your eagle eye to figure out tricky words while you read.
okay, so don't forget to tell them. So remember, you are giving directions, like you start giving directions to when they're standing in line, right? So start at the beginning. So like, what do they do when they sit at the table?
So when you come to the table, I want you to sit and star and wait for me to join. When you're reading, use a whisper voice so other scholars don't get distracted. And when you're also reading, remember to use your eagle eye to figure out tricky words as you read.
Okay, and so one more time, but that actually sounds good. So one more
Okay.
time.
Right.
And like I know that like you might tell them to sit and start like, and then you come and sit down and state expectations for literacy touch session. So just it's fine that I know that like you're gonna start giving directions when they're. I know it probably feels
Yeah.
weird. It's okay. I got it.
Okay. So, when you come to the table, sit in the star and wait for me to join. When reading, use a whisper voice to make sure that other scholars aren't get distracted. When reading, remember to use your eagle eye to figure out tricky words.
Okay. And so, that's so like I want you to remember that. So number one, if whether you're doing a guided reading lesson or you're doing a comp lesson, that is still like there's still a specific strategy that you want to work on with them.
Yeah.
And so that's something like you want to review. And like honestly, like I would have an anchor chart. Like so, if you want to start with like figuring out tricky words for them, if you want to start with eagle eye, like I would like make an eagle eye thing and like this is what we're working on every day. So you even have like a focal point to like for the kids to use as a
Reminder as they read.
yes, like a reminder as they read. So like make an anchor chart. So that they know what they're supposed to do. Like we just want to make sure that and like I know that we have excellence work and the kids have finders, but we definitely want to make sure that in the times that we're supposed to do instruction,
Mhm.
that we are always doing instruction. And I know we have schedule changes, so then it's our job as the adults to adapt and adapt the schedule for them so that they can be very successful because they already have a lot of like if you think about it, they have major transitions, a number of them throughout the school day. So we just want to make sure that we're doing that. And I think like if you state expectations and really clear, I think like guided reading, like you won't have the same behaviors either. So like if Orion and so when you told the kids to sit down, you don't see it in the video, but you did not explicitly state for them. So they're like standing off waiting for you when really we want them to be sitting here and ready to learn.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.